I know that sounds harsh, but stay with me. How many times have you found yourself giving, bending, compromising just to keep someone from walking away? How many times have you ignored that sinking feeling in your gut, the one whispering, this isn't right, this isn't love? We tell ourselves that if we try harder, love deeper, give more, they'll stay. But love isn't a game of endurance. It's not about proving your worth to someone who can't or won't see it. Loving yourself means recognizing when someone is treating you as an option while you've made them a priority. It means being brave enough to walk away, not because you don't care, but because you do, about yourself. And here's the irony. When you let go, you give them a chance to miss you, to feel the absence of what they took for granted, to realize that your love wasn't a given, it was a gift. But this speech isn't really about them, it's about you, because when you step away from what's not right, you don't just give them space to miss you, you give yourself space to heal, to remember who you were before you shrank yourself to fit into their life, to rebuild, reclaim, and redefine your worth. So love yourself enough to let them go. If they come back with a heart that's willing, ready, and whole, maybe there's something to explore. But if they don't, let that be the answer you were too afraid to see. You are not disposable. You are not an afterthought. And you don't have to convince anyone of your worth. Let them go. Let them miss you. And in the space they leave behind, find yourself again. Self-worth isn't something you earn, bargain for, or prove. It's something you claim. It is the foundation of how you allow yourself to be treated. The quiet voice inside that whispers, you are enough, even when the world tries to convince you otherwise. But too often, we place our worth in the hands of others. We measure it by how much love, attention, or validation we receive. We think, if they choose me, I must be valuable. If they leave, I must not be enough. That's the biggest lie we tell ourselves. Your worth is not a debate, a vote, or a negotiation. It is not something to be placed on a scale waiting for someone else to decide if it tips in your favor. You do not become more or less worthy based on someone's ability to love you, appreciate you, or understand you. Think about it. Have you ever dimmed your light just to keep someone comfortable? Have you stayed in situations where you weren't valued just to avoid the sting of rejection? We do this because we think love means sacrifice. We think if we give more, we'll be chosen. If we stay patient, they'll change. If we shrink ourselves, we'll finally fit. But love that requires you to abandon yourself is not love, it's self-betrayal. Real love, whether it's from a partner, a friend, or even yourself, doesn't ask you to compromise your dignity. It doesn't demand that you tolerate mistreatment, indifference, or emotional unavailability. It doesn't keep you waiting in uncertainty, hoping that one day you'll finally be enough. The truth is, you were enough the whole time. When you finally decide to stop negotiating your worth, when you stop begging, proving, over-explaining, or making excuses for people who don't see your value, you step into a different kind of power. You begin to attract relationships that don't drain you but nourish you. You stop settling for crumbs when you were meant for a feast. So let's say it again. Self-worth isn't negotiable. You don't have to prove it. You don't have to fight for it. You just have to believe it. And when you do, you'll realize that the people who truly see you, respect you, and love you will never ask you to bargain for what should have been yours all along. Letting go is one of the hardest things we'll ever do, not because we don't know it's necessary, but because it requires us to face a truth we often try to avoid, that something we once held dear is no longer meant for us. Letting go isn't about giving up. It's not about being weak or failing to hold on long enough. It's about having the courage to walk away from something that no longer nurtures you, supports you, or aligns with the person you're becoming. Think about it. How many times have you stayed in a situation that drained you simply because the idea of leaving felt more terrifying than the reality of staying? How many times have you held on, not because it was good for you, but because the fear of the unknown felt unbearable? We hold on because we crave certainty. Because even if something is painful, at least it's familiar. At least we know how to navigate it. But here's the thing, growth doesn't happen in comfort zones. Healing doesn't happen in places where you're constantly questioning your worth. And love, real love, doesn't require you to suffer in silence just to keep it alive. Letting go is an act of courage because it requires us to trust ourselves, to believe that we are strong enough to face what comes next, even if we can't see it yet. It means choosing our own well-being over our fear of loss. It means understanding that just because something felt right at one point doesn't mean it's right forever. But here's the part we often overlook. Letting go isn't just about releasing the other person. It's also about releasing our own guilt, resentment, and regret. It's about forgiving ourselves for the times we ignored red flags, for the moments we settled for less than we deserved, for the ways we abandoned ourselves in the name of love. Courage isn't just about walking away. It's about refusing to carry the weight of something that was never yours to bear. And yes, it will hurt. There will be nights when the absence feels unbearable, when the loneliness creeps in, when the doubt whispers, maybe I should have stayed. But in those moments, remind yourself why you let go in the first place. Remind yourself that you are not walking away from love, you are walking toward it. The kind of love that doesn't require you to sacrifice your peace, the kind of love that exists first within yourself. So be brave enough to release what isn't meant for you. Trust that on the other side of letting go, there is something greater waiting for you. Something that doesn't require you to hold on so tightly, but instead meets you exactly where you are with open arms and no conditions. Silence is uncomfortable. Distance feels like loss, and space, especially when it means stepping back from someone we love, feels like the beginning of the end. But what if space isn't about losing something? What if space is the one thing that allows us to truly see what's real? When we're in the middle of something, whether it's a relationship, a friendship, or even a personal struggle, we often lose perspective. We become so entangled in emotions, expectations, and fears that we can't see the situation clearly. We react instead of reflect. We cling instead of question. We mistake attachment for connection. Space is what allows us to step back and see things as they really are, not just as we want them to be. Think about a painter standing too close to a canvas. Up close, all they see are individual brush strokes, tiny details, and splashes of color that might not make sense. But when they take a few steps back, the entire image comes into view. What was once chaotic becomes clear. The same thing happens when we create space in our relationships in our lives. Maybe you've been holding on to someone because the thought of losing them is unbearable. Maybe you've been afraid that if you take a step back, they'll move on without you. Maybe you've convinced yourself that closeness is proof of love, that distance means disconnection. But real love, real connection, doesn't dissolve in space. It gains definition. Space gives you time to listen to your own thoughts instead of being consumed by someone else's presence. It allows you to separate your true needs from your fears. It gives the other person a chance to feel what life is like without you constantly there, making it clear whether they truly value you or simply take you for granted. Sometimes people need to miss you to realize your worth. They need to sit in your absence to understand what your presence meant. And you need space to remember who you are outside of them. Clarity doesn't come from clinging, it comes from stepping back. If something is meant for you, space will only strengthen it. If it's not, space will reveal the truth you've been avoiding. Either way, clarity will come. So don't be afraid to take a step back. Give yourself permission to breathe, to reflect, and to see things for what they truly are. Because in that space, you will find the answers you've been searching for. We live in a world that tells us healing happens when we stay busy, when we fill the silence with distractions, surround ourselves with people, and keep moving forward, as if slowing down would somehow make the pain unbearable. But the truth is, real healing, the deep kind, the kind that transforms you, doesn't happen in noise. It happens in solitude. There's something terrifying about being alone with our thoughts. The silence forces us to face the feelings we've been running from, the memories we tried to bury, the truth we tried to avoid. But here's the thing, healing isn't about avoiding pain. It's about sitting with it long enough to understand what it's trying to teach you. When you step into solitude, you give yourself the space to listen, to ask yourself the hard questions. Why did I stay in a place that didn't value me? What wounds have I been trying to ignore? What do I need to learn from this? No one else can answer these questions for you. No amount of external validation, social media scrolling, or temporary comfort can replace the work that needs to be done in solitude. Healing requires self-reflection, it requires honesty, it requires a willingness to sit in the discomfort of not having all the answers right away. Solitude isn't loneliness, it's an invitation. It's an invitation to reconnect with yourself, to rediscover who you are when no one is influencing you, to remember the things that bring you peace, outside of relationships, outside of expectations, outside of the noise. Some of the most profound healing moments come when you're alone, when you sit in the stillness and finally allow yourself to feel everything you've been avoiding. When you realize that your worth was never tied to someone else's presence. When you understand that being alone doesn't mean being abandoned, it means being with the one person who will never leave you, yourself. And here's the most beautiful part. When you heal in solitude, you don't just heal for yourself. You heal for the future version of you, the one who will no longer settle for less, the one who will walk into new relationships whole, not searching for someone to complete them, the one who will recognize that solitude was never the enemy. It was the sanctuary that led them back home to themselves. So don't fear the quiet, embrace it, lean into the solitude, because that's where the healing begins. We hear the word love and immediately think of closeness, of two people merging their lives, sharing everything and never letting go. We've been taught that love means sacrifice, that it means saying yes even when we want to say no, that it means compromising our needs just to keep someone happy. But real love, healthy, lasting, fulfilling love, doesn't erase boundaries, it respects them. Boundaries aren't walls meant to keep people out, they're doors, guiding others on how to treat us. They tell the world, this is where I end and you begin. This is what I can give and this is what I will not accept. When love is real, it doesn't push against these limits, it honors them. Think about the relationships where you felt the most drained, the ones where you kept giving, bending, and stretching yourself thin just to keep the peace. You ignored your own needs because you didn't want to seem difficult. You said yes when your heart was screaming no. You tolerated things that chipped away at your spirit because you were afraid of losing the person. But what did that love cost you? Love that demands self-sacrifice isn't love, it's control, it's dependency, it's a slow erosion of the person you were before you started making yourself smaller to accommodate someone else. Real love doesn't ask you to betray yourself. It doesn't expect you to abandon your boundaries just to prove your commitment. Instead, it acknowledges them, respects them,